regarding a mixed-use development including 181 apartments, 14,900 square feet, commercial space, open area, 220 parking spaces, and site redevelopment. The site redevelopment would convert a former school building to 47 apartments, construct two 3-story buildings, a ground floor retail and upper story residential use, one 4-story residential building over a garage podium. Site amenities 25 and 31 Raymond Avenue, zoned ATC, Arlington Town Center District, 6.4 acres and 0.4 acres respectively. Unlisted action, PAS Management, Inc., contract vendee, Arlington Grade School and Arlington Central School District owners. To be adjourned, the applicant has asked that the public hearing be adjourned until February 15th. So we're going to open the public hearing. We won't take any comment, and we will close the public hearing. And the next public hearing on this will be on February 15th, 2018. Do I have a motion to...
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We moved in second to open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. I move that we adjourn the public hearing until February 15th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And that's it. Thank you. So we've adjourned the public hearing until February 15th. Second item on our agenda is Underhill Solar LLC, site plan public hearing regarding a proposed 3,000 kilowatt solar photovoltaic array ground mounted system, 130 and 122 Underhill Road, zoned R-4A, resident single family, 4-acre district, 71 acres. It's a type 1 action. Brian and Sally, Underhill owners.
Hi. Ann Whaling for Cypress Creek Renewables. Christina Zalesi from Langen Engineering.
Okay. Eric?
Let's see, we've received updates from this applicant fairly regularly over the recent months. In the last go-around, there were just a few remaining issues that the board had before it felt ready to move forward. I've kind of summarized those issues in the staff review that you have. They had to do basically with access and the decommissioning plan and easements. We feel that the applicant has proposed measures to deal with those issues as described in the recommendation. The access was basically the adjoining owner has offered an easement for that purpose to be negotiated with the applicant. And they've provided, their attorney provided correspondence to that effect, and the board found that to be acceptable for purposes of this application. With regard to the decommissioning, the applicant has provided an estimate for decommissioning costs and has conceptually consented to an agreement, to crafting an agreement and easement with the underlying property owners for the purpose of future decommissioning. Details to be worked out with the attorney. And also, the board was interested in a financial guarantee for the decommissioning, and that has also been proposed by the applicant in the form of a 30-year bond. Again, details to be firmed up. The amount of which, however, does need to be specified need to be identified and accepted by the planning board. If the board accepts the concept of approves of an amount for a bond, I believe the bond itself would require acceptance by the town board. So that is all of that is worked into the conditions in your packet. I think that covers most of the issues. Last time around, there was some concern about the need for off-site easements resulting from drainage, and my understanding from, and Don can speak to this, is that those off-site easements are not required. They have redesigned things sufficiently not to need those. I think that's pretty much it. The staff and attorney have prepared a negative declaration and a resolution of conditional site plan approval if you choose to consider those tonight.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. It's a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, call the question, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Is there anyone in the audience wish to comment on this application? Underhill Solar. Seeing no one,
I move we close the public hearing.
okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded, close the public hearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Let me start with Rocco, because you had a question, and I think,
Yeah, hi. Don, I guess you're sitting in for Andrew? Looks like we have a new updated estimate on the decommissioning cost. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Andy met with the applicant. They discussed the prior bond estimate that we put together. They looked through some different resources, and we decided to drop it. One of the other reasons that we decided to drop it was because the applicants agreed that we look at this every 5 years. One of the things that we talked about at the other meeting was the fact that there was inflation and nobody knew what that was going to be. The inflation factor, we hadn't calculated any in, and we don't have any in this one. So we think it's, within the range, the numbers that we have are within a range that would be able to be used in 5 years. But we also have the underlying agreement, which says that they'll do it if it happens within 5 years.
So does that mean, let me make sure I understand what you just said, there's going to be a review every 5 years?
That's understanding.
Okay, and then if need be, you will modify what the decommissioning costs would be?
Correct.
And we have agreement with the,
Yes, that's correct.
okay.
and Lisa, that's in the agreement, we have that in writing.
Yes. Well, we have, it's in the resolutions that are proposed before the board,
Yes.
and then the final agreement would be in writing with the applicant.
Okay.
I think it's important to just note for the record that the bond, the concept of the bond was discussed last month. It's being proposed by the applicant, and thus the resolution, I believe, is drafted so as to require that the details of that bond be worked out, not that the bond be provided as a condition of approval. Would that be accurate, Lisa?
Correct.
Okay, sounds fair to me.
Okay.
Anything else, since I started with you, anything else?
No, I'm good right now.
Okay, Nicole?
No, I just, we were talking about the decommissioning cost, and we wanted to have that. We have that now. We wanted a bond. We have that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know that there's anything else that I.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Peter? And I think Peter started with the decommissioning bond and all that.
It's really born from, there was, it's a long story. I just want to read something briefly from, I was going to talk about the uncertainty principle. A quantum physicist, Heisenberg. The only thing that's really certain is that nothing is certain. That's the uncertainty principle. But anyway, I want to read something
We
briefly.
certainly appreciate that.
I want to read something from a letter from Morris Associates dated January 9th. Regarding the Speedies permit, the 2 stormwater detention basins are proposed to mitigate peak flow rates. Flow velocities from the spreader have been confirmed to be non-erosive through the 100-year storm event at flow rates less than existing. The discharge rates from the basin along the westerly property boundary have also been determined to be less than existing conditions. That's amazing. This is a very challenging site. And I just want to compliment your engineer and our engineer getting together and resolving these issues, because I don't have to tell you, this
Yeah.
wasn't easy.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Ben?
No, I'm happy with everything, and I just think everybody should be aware that we're not setting a precedent here, that there's been similar situations in other localities, and everything seems to be going good, so we're okay.
Thank you. Yeah, this is right in line with what we're seeing in other municipalities.
And it was great that you guys went along with it and said, we'll take responsibility and help you work through the decommissioning plan, all the ins and outs. So I think that's to everybody's benefit.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think I heard it yet, but there was a revised estimate that came in today as a result of discussions
I
between
think that was.
the applicant's engineer and the town's consulting engineer. So you have a memorandum dated January 18th with the amount in it. And that amount is $115,486.75.
It's important.
So is that what you are proposing is the amount of the bond?
That is the amount that we're proposing.
And that's what we're all in agreement? Well, I know that we have to work that out with the town and the legal folks, and then the town has to approve it, because this is quite a reduction from the previous estimate.
The reduction was agreed to with the engineers based on a number of discussions that they had about technical issues and possible reclamation and other various things that went on that. So from a legal standpoint, I'm comfortable that the engineer's decision is right, and then the legal details will work out after the resolution when we deal with the bond itself.
And I like that they look at it here. That's a big thing, because this industry is changing so much all the time.
Yeah.
So, with that, I move that the planning board as lead agency hereby determines that the Underhill Solar LLC site plan would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in the secret negative declaration for a type 1 action dated January 18th, 2017.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the planning board as lead agency hereby determine that the Underhill Solar LLC site plan would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in the secret negative declaration for a type 1 action dated January 18, 2018. 17. Should be 18.
Should be 18.
Should be 18.
That does sound wrong.
So the date should be January 18, 2018.
Update my motion to 18.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I move that the planning board adopt the attached resolution of conditional site plan approval for the Underhill Solar LLC site plan, subject to the following 1 through 5, and that includes the updated bond amount that we just talked about.
Right.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the planning board adopt the attached resolution of a conditional site plan approval for the Underhill Solar LLC site plan, subject to the following 1 through 5, which of course includes the decommissioning mathematics. And call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I move that the planning board waive architectural review for this project.
Second.
It's moved and seconded that the planning board waive architectural review.
Thank you.
Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Good luck. When do you expect to start?
Depending on tree clearing restrictions and how quickly the building permit can be attained before March 31st.
That's right, you have those restrictions. Well, I'm sure you can get the building permit before.
And I'm just going to recommend, there's a lot of legalese to be worked out. That's usually what takes the longest and usually gets started the latest. So in the interest of time, please, I know your attorney was there the other day, but have them get in touch with ours and start working out the details as quickly as possible.
Thank you, I
And
appreciate that.
We'll work with you on that.
Okay,
We don't want to get to the end and all of a sudden you're up against the deadline for tree clearing. And, you know.
that's our big concern, so we appreciate your expedience.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing number 3, Cryowell, 253 Innes Avenue. Site plan public hearing for proposed 825 square foot hazardous materials outdoor storage and loading area at an existing welding equipment and supply business, 253 Innes Avenue, zoned SPC, Salt Point Center District, 1.25 acres. Type 2 action, Innes, third generation or Gen LLC owner.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
Brandon Petrella, Maury Architects.
Nick Centerani, Cryweld, and 3rd Gen LLC.
We have not made any drastic changes since our first presentation. It's still the same size storage platform, non-combustible, located on the east side of the property, built into the hill. We have addressed, I think, engineering's comments. They have sent us a letter regarding any drainage in our grading plans. I think we've addressed most of planning department's comments as well. We have received a few minor comments since our last visit. I am prepared to address those tonight if need be. The one major issue that I feel came up was the DEC had pointed out landing turtles. I think in discussions with Eric, and Eric can talk about this a little bit more, but we're a developed site classified as a type 2 action, so I'm not sure that that comes into play for this project. And then finally, the other item was backflow inspection, which was an important point by the water department. That's been completed, and I have proof of that tonight, and we can forward that to the water department as well. Other than that, I hope we can open the public hearing and move forward.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
We had very few comments on this. There's a couple of cleanup items on the plan to clarify. You can come and talk with us. The only one that might even require some further discussion would be just, it was hard to tell what the lighting looks like. The county had some kind of scary comments on it, but it's mostly in conformance with the town code. I think maybe it might need some shielding, and that's about it.
If I could comment on that, I think they kind of misread the plan a little bit. That's actually, those are the hotspots of the light. Those are the light locations immediately on the building. They're LED lights, so they're not shielded because they're all directional LEDs, technically. So they don't have, if you look at the lighting plan, there's zero immediately beyond our building. So it's not something that's going to create like a glare effect. But I can certainly address that in writing to you guys. So
Right.
very minor. I think they just kind of misread the photometric.
I think they misread it also.
Yeah.
So with that, the staff is recommending a conditional site plan approval for this. Just a reminder that this project was previously identified as a type 2 action for seeker. It's under 4,000 square feet, addition to commercial, and therefore no further environmental review is required. No seeker determination is required. So you won't see a resolution in your staff recommendation for seeker, only for the site plan conditional approval if you see fit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, we open the public hearing. Been seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this application, Cryowell on Innis Avenue? Oh, come on, must be somewhere.
No, don't root for it.
I move we close the public hearing.
We have a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second, we close the public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, Nicole, we'll start with you.
Sure. So, yeah, I just, my concern was the recertification of the backflow. You just said you completed it. Again, also with the lighting, and you said the directional. The other thing was a landing turtle. And I don't know if any fencing needs to go up or anything like that. In our reading, they were talking about possible fencing. I think it said that landing turtles were on your site because you're so close to that lake. I think it's Morgan Lake or whatever up by Lake Dutchess Community College. So that was really all that I had.
Yeah, typically what happens is when you have identified landing turtles on the site, fencing is installed during the construction process to prevent them from coming onto the site or vice versa, because we're an already commercially developed property,
Right.
And we're next to such a highly active road, the idea that they would be there is kind of not realistic.
Right, because how are they going to cross that road without getting
Right,
such a busy road right there?
right. And they've never been found on the site before. And like Eric had mentioned, it's not really an environmental review isn't really part of this project. So those sort of regulations, I don't think, come into play at this point.
Right.
Okay.
True. Okay. That's true. Anyway.
Yeah.
That it?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, are you in concurrence with their position that no response is required with regard to the DEC's concerns?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
As is Lisa. Right.
Correct.
Ben?
Nothing.
I got nothing.
Not a whole lot. I was going to ask if you're going to repave the parking lot. It's a bit rough at the moment.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right, sounds like that'll clean it all up. And I assume you work with the fire department on the gate access. They want to make sure it's wide enough for the,
I actually
equipment and
called,
such.
I called the captain and I discussed all of those issues with him. He was comfortable with everything, and in fact, he actually omitted one of his comments previously. We have a 22-foot wide gate, and the tractor trailer access that we put on there is actually a WB50, which is slightly larger than what he was requiring, which is a WB40. So he was happy with those issues, and we'll provide the keys, of course, in the Knox box. That's not a problem.
Yep, sounds good. And I think we talked last time, there is still a little bit of a tree buffer to the neighboring house there.
Correct.
So minimize any light and
Yes.
to them. That's it.
Thank you. Rocco?
All right, nothing new.
Okay. That said, let's see.
We've closed the public hearing, so I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval for the cryo-weld plan, subject to the following, 1 through 9.
Second.
Moved and seconded, the planning board grant conditional site plan approval for cryo-weld, subject to the following 1 through 9. And call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Okay, architectural review, do we need to do an architectural review?
What color's the metal roof?
Metal.
Metal,
Gray. I mean, that's the intent right now. It's not going to be like neon orange.
a non-glare.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be basically prime steel.
Yep.
What's there now?
Nothing. Oh, the existing building? What color is the
White.
existing? Yeah.
White. Should we make it the same, or?
So it's corrugated?
Corrugated.
Yeah, I guess my
I mean, it's
inclination.
across the parking lot from the building.
Right, my inclination was to keep it gray to kind of minimize its sightliness.
Blend in
You
with the
know,
surroundings,
just kind of, when you do things darker, they sort of tend to disappear, but if
Right.
the board
Yeah, I don't-
feels white is better, then
I think that might make it stand out, and,
The white, you mean?
yeah.
No, it's, you know what?
I think, right.
How about we just waive architectural review and do what you think is appropriate?
we appreciate that, thank you.
Problem with that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I move that we waive architectural review.
Second?
And second, to call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay, you're good to go.
I also didn't turn in my affidavit, so who?
Okay, I know I was told that everyone did advertise, so that we're in good shape. Okay, and again, sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
.43 Violet Avenue, site plan hearing for renovation of an existing building and site improvements to provide an ice cream parlor and restaurant in one of the 2 tenant spaces in an outdoor dining area. 43 Violet Avenue, Zone BN, neighborhood business, .44 acres. Type 2 action, Tommy Hoy Moon Chin and Yi Sonia Kin, owners.
That's incorrect.
Okay,
Should say Hand S Corporation?
Yes.
Yes,
what should it say?
Hand S Corporation.
And S Corporation, okay. And S Corp, H-A-N-D-S? And S, and dash.
If there's not enough, I'll give them back.
That's a lot easier to say, so good. Works for us. Okay. Thank you. Okay,
Take one and pass it.
what would you like to say?
We have, we've been
First of all,
working with.
identify
with Kristen.
yourselves, please. That
Yes,
would-
I'm Christina Ducharme, of Christina Ducharme Architecture.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And Doug Surinsky, who's a contractor for the project. And we're here representing 43 Violet Avenue. We've submitted plans and we received comments was it earlier this week or the end of last week, which we've responded to, and the drawings that are making their way around the table. So can we go through the comments from the
Well, give us an overall what you want to
engineer?
do. Can you give us an
Okay,
overview?
Overall, the project is an existing building that is in need of repair. It was last a pizza parlor and a Chinese restaurant, and we're proposing to renovate it, turn half of it into an ice cream shop and the other half of it into rentable space to be determined.
Okay. Sounds good. It's nice to see that you're going to reuse an existing building that's been empty for quite some time.
Yes.
I think that's good.
Yes. So we are doing minimal renovations, and budget is a concern on the project. So we are proposing to essentially remove the existing planters. There's CMU planters around the front that are in bad condition. They're going to be removed and replaced with a concrete sidewalk fenced in for outdoor seating for the ice cream parlor. And we're proposing to locate the dumpster in the corner of the property with a retaining wall and screened fenced enclosure. And general repairs to the parking lot, proper handicapped parking. We're proposing to repair the existing signage by the street. It will remain in the existing location. The existing size will remain as is. We're repairing the landscaping, cleaning it up.
Painting the building or residing it? Or?
Well, when the planters are removed, the siding will need to be patched in. So working with Kristen, we've proposed replacing at least the front facade with new vinyl siding.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to occupy the left or right half?
They're going to occupy the right-hand side.
For the ice cream
clients.
parlor, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Sounds reasonable to me.
How long has this been vacant?
I'm not sure. It's been vacant at least.
My understanding, it's about 3 years. At least one half.
At least.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad to see things are
Well, because it says
happening up there.
everything is in working order. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, I think that was it. You're looking at the signage, or?
No, I'm looking at the plan that was submitted here. And going through some of the comments, it said that everything was in working order. The stoves and everything.
talking about the inside.
Essentially what happened, and it appeared to me when I visited the site, was they removed all the food, removed everything out of the coolers, turned everything off, and just walked away because there were coolers in there that were still operable. The only thing is that the electric was disconnected. So I guess that's why it seemed like they were in operating order. We didn't test them, but it seemed like they were in operating order.
Isn't this the building where most of the copper and everything had been stripped out, vandalized?
Yes. I believe what you have is the proposed floor plan in your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think in the comments, I was reading that everything was in existence, that was operable, that they wanted to use everything that was there.
Well, there are certain elements or certain pieces of equipment that can remain, and we're going to be evaluating that as part of the building process.
That's all interior stuff.
Okay. It's just.
I think the comments you're referring to are water related as well. There's some copper piping that was stripped from the building apparently, so that's going to be a significant issue to fix. But that is a comment that will need to be addressed. But again, like you noted, we'll be working with the building department, and you'll have to go through that process beyond this process. So that has been documented. It will have to be addressed as part of your conditional approval if the board so chooses to move that way this evening. Just taking a step back, just so the board's aware, the business or the parcel that's being discussed is zoned neighborhood business, and adjacent properties are zoned RM and R20. And then just another comment that was brought up in our discussions with Casey were the potential incorporation of sidewalks, which is a planning board discretionary item, just taking into account the size of the site and what work is already being put into the site. It is their intention to pave Staff just recommends the planning board to have that discussion. You do have that discretion. How many more times can I say discretion?
And I'd like to add to that while we understand the value of the sidewalks for the community, that would be a financial hardship for this project. And they're looking to renovate the building. As you can see, there's significant work that has to be done. And the ultimate goal is to improve it and to open a viable business in the location without causing unnecessary financial burden on the clients.
What's the road footage on this? What's the road footage?
I don't know. And
Not very much.
131 feet.
thank you. Yeah.
Just under 100 feet.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And just following up from kind of a rundown of my list, it is classified as a type 2 action as it stands right now. Any of the engineering comments we did review, I know that I, again, had some kind of offline conversations with Casey about comments that were provided to you. And we can work with engineering staff internally to address any of those. I know there was a recommendation to incorporate the retaining wall as part of the trash enclosure and kind of make it one.
Right.
But now we're looking at a separate retaining wall and then a chain link fence.
Well, we have, in the plans that we've submitted, we worked with our engineer on staff and developed a design that has the fence on top of the wall. So then you have the retaining wall, which is made out of masonry units, and then the fence on top of the wall going around to just a freestanding screened fence.
Okay. And so, as a note, I would ask that the planning board, request that additional information due to a site change.
Did we still need an owner certification on this?
No, it was just incorrect on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those details are in the set that was just passed around.
Sure, we'll, the planning staff, if the planning board decides to grant conditional site plan approval, planning staff this will be circulated again to all those departments that have already reviewed it. We'll review it again, provide comments. It's kind of an open dialogue until we get it to where we like it.
Okay.
And then you get your signature.
We got the idea, and there's a lot of work to do, but it's a great idea, and I think hopefully to be successful. What kind of ice cream?
You have to come and find out.
Okay, good answer. Anyway, let's open the public hearing. What do you think?
I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
We moved in second. We open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this application, 43 Violet Avenue?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved in second. We close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Let's go around the board. We'll start with, I don't know, let's start with, who did we start with last time? Phil, Peter? We'll start with Ben.
Ben?
Ben.
Well, I haven't had really a chance to review this enough, but I think it's a great idea what you're trying to do. That site does need work, and it seems like a good thing. Work with Kristen and just follow the rules, and should be okay.
Thank you.
I agree. I think just work with staff, work out the details. Obviously, the equipment inside, if it's usable and it passes muster with the Board of Health because it's going to be serving food, that's fine. If not, you'll have to deal with that.
Absolutely.
So that's my comments.
Yeah, I just echo that it is a good use. I'm not sure if you're familiar, there's a senior housing development going in right next door, so that we'll get some foot traffic coming in. I questioned who owns the fence going to the house next door? Is that something
That would be on our property.
that's on your property, so that fence will remain as it?
We're proposing a new fence along
Okay.
that side, yeah.
Okay. And I think I read you're going to repave as well?
Yes.
Because it's a little rough at the moment. Guess the last thing I question is is there any way to put, without putting sidewalks across the whole front, is there a way to put maybe one square of sidewalk in in the southwest corner that will tie into the Dahlia sidewalk that goes right up to their property line. So that's just something to look at with staff, I would say, see if there's a way, that the seniors can get there without, if there's a way to get a dropped curb or something, so that it can be handicapped accessible to get people into your site.
Because chances,
If Dahlia just goes right up to the property line, then there's gonna be a curb drop off.
yeah.
There's some way to ramp it down, staying out of the, I don't think you have to get into the DOT right away or anything, just stay on your property. There's just a bush in the way maybe there to remove, but,
They're going to potentially be, a lot of your customers perhaps, and
so just,
it would make sense to do, that's right.
let's say, look at the issue with staff and see if there's a way to resolve that in a economical way.
Okay.
Rocco?
Okay. Yeah, this looks like a good idea. I mean, I like the idea, and I was just, curious about those other things. A little bit about the landscaping. You're proposing some new shrubs along the side here, because the site looks like could use a good cleanup.
Yeah,
Once it's cleaned up.
We were working
the
with
landscaping aspect.
Kristen on that, and proposing to clean up the existing shrubs and the planted area between the parking lot and Violet Avenue will be cleaned up and landscaped.
The cleanup is one thing. What about after the cleanup to make it more attractive?
They're taking that away?
Yeah, what plants are you gonna be putting in?
Plantings.
Right now.
Yeah,
Shrubs.
they're adding shrubs. I
We've
see
called
that.
it out as a mixture of evergreen and native shrubs and flowers, max height and spread 3 feet.
Okay.
Okay, and that's, and I see where I can see on these photos where you're going to put the dumpster back there. Looks like you got a bit of a slope, you're gonna have to flatten that out.
They're putting a retaining wall in.
Over there? Okay. Whole thing there. All right. And Kristen will work with that and the shrubs. Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's already been covered, and again, obviously, you're gonna have to restore some of that copper piping, but then you can restore some of that with plastic, which will cut down on cost. As far as the building is concerned, I understand that they're trying to be cost effective, but, we want to make sure it does look good, so, if you can take that into account too, because you're gonna be right next door to a senior center, you're gonna have lots of people coming up there, relatives, what have you, and you want it to look good.
I think it's
Especially in-
everybody's intention to improve the aesthetics as much as possible, but
Right.
I'd hate to see the project die if it's, if there are too many requirements and it's not able to be done for the budget, then we have to make choices.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Peter?
I have a quick question. Just to clarify, one of the items that the planning board is requesting is to repave the parking lot. Are you talking about ripping out what's there and putting new down, or capping it? Or what's kind of the parameters of that?
I don't think, that's up to you and the contractor who does the paving. If you think you can utilize what's there as a base and then put a cap over it and it'll give you some longevity, that's fine.
Okay.
We're not gonna tell you how to handle it in terms
Sure.
of the actual construction.
Okay, it was that was one of the things that came up with the owners, certainly because of cost and.
Sure, no, I understand, but a lot of times you can clean up what's there.
Right.
Fill in the potholes and then put a cap over it and it'll work, it'll be very serviceable. If it works and it's less expensive, then why not?
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna request of the board, I know I'm gonna go to Peter, that we postpone architectural review. We'd like to see what's gonna look like in the end, so it's.
Well, we've submitted elevations to you and
Well,
color renderings.
I need colors and I need samples of what you're gonna use.
We brought samples.
Oh, you did? Huh. Okay, then we'll get to that afterward. Then we'll do architectural review. Very good.
I did tell them.
Have you done this before?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so. Peter?
Is the existing fence on the northeast side,
Coming down here.
is it 8 feet? Is it 8 feet high?
We are proposing an 8-foot-high fence. What is there currently?
I think it's chain link.
I think it is chain link. I'm not sure the height that's there currently, but what we're proposing is a stockade fence 8 foot high.
Okay. What materials were you planning to use?
Either wood or vinyl.
That's pretty much all I have. I think this is one of the things that makes America great. You know, when you have people who are willing to work hard and take a chance, transform an eyesore in a neighborhood, I think it's terrific. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good. Yes, plus it plays into the other development that's going to happen, and it'll all enhance the neighborhood, so it's good.
I mean, also, if finances are tight, once they're successful, you can do
Exactly.
some additional
There can be a second
incremental
phase
improvements.
potentially.
And then you can bring us some ice cream. Anything else? Carl?
I move that the planning board determine that the proposed meets the criteria for a secret type 2 action pursuant to Secret 617.5 sub C sub 1, and no further environmental review is required.
Been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval for 43 Violet Avenue project, subject to the following, 1 through 3, and
Comments of the...
and what I said about access for the, work out with the department access for Dahlia residents.
The short side.
I mean, it's senior apartments, so I assume there'll be some in wheelchair as well as walkers or whatnot, so just a way to get there without trouble.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. 6-0. Architectural review.
Okay.
What's it gonna look like?
Well, we submitted a colored rendering, which you should have a copy of.
Oh, we swim in paper.
So just to clarify, and I had the same question that's
Okay.
probably going to come up. Casey.
Is it in color?
Yeah, she had said that you guys are proposing a white vinyl, so that's why it appears
That's
white.
That's correct. The existing roof is brown,
Right, is that good shape?
and it is
The shingles.
the shingles, the
Yeah, the
asphalt
shingles
shingles.
on the front of the are good.
Good, okay.
So at this point, we're assuming that element is going to stay intact. So
Right.
what we're left with then is addressing that all of the doors and windows are staying. And we acknowledge that when the planters are being removed, that there's going to be a gap in the siding. So Kristen has suggested residing the front of the building, which would be done in vinyl.
Which color?
Well, I would suggest white. I mean, there's a brown roof, and
Okay, all right, that's fine.
unless the board has another comment.
So it'd be white siding all the way down. And the awning there, does that stay?
The awning is being removed.
Okay. And the awning is over the windows? Are those what those are?
Those are not awnings. Those are a metal panel, and those are going to remain.
They're gonna stay the
It's
same?
like a metal
color?
transom.
Oh, all right, they're gonna be painted?
They're gonna remain as is. So the elements that you have are white vinyl siding and like a dark brown storefront assembly, and the dark brown transom over the windows and doors.
Are they in good shape, or do they need painting? I
in
wasn't up
good
there. Did anybody,
Those are in adequate shape.
anybody been up there to see?
I've been there, I can't remember, the roof looked good.
Okay,
Are you gonna do anything with the block wall at the front?
that's coming out.
That's coming down, right?
That's all coming down on both sides?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a fence.
On the right side, there's a roller thing. What is that?
I'm sorry?
On the right side of the building, over here, there's a roller, it looks like a roll-out shade, or...
Yeah, I don't know what that is, a light or something. That's being removed.
Okay, being removed, okay.
Proposed signage in that location, one sign mounted flat on the building for the ice cream shop in that location.
There's the wheel stops there already.
Is that an air conditioner sticking out the front of the building?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's gonna be removed.
That's removed, oh, good.
Removed.
The wheel stops.
Talking my language here.
They're here.
All right, and the side of the building, you're gonna clean up the side and clean up the siding, I
Reinstall.
mean,
We're gonna-
the brush and all that stuff.
We're gonna clean it up, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm, okay, anybody have any comments, any?
How tall is that, it's like an architectural fence kind of that around the tables?
That should be in your plans, I can see here.
Just a,
It's being proposed at 3 feet.
okay, just a nice. And that's gonna be black, probably?
Question,
Yes.
and that is, again, the height, the building fence, I know it varies within the town in different districts. I'm just wondering, is it the fence height, is that permitted 8 feet? I mean, I know it varies from district to district.
As I understand it, if it's above 4 feet, I had a discussion with engineering staff this afternoon, and they'll have to confirm, but if it's over a certain footage, they do have to have a licensed engineer design it. That's really all the detail I have.
But is a variance required if it,
Yeah, that, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The wall, the stone, the brick?
No, they,
no, I'm talking about the fence,
Fence to the neighbor.
stockade fence in the northeast perimeter of the.
We would be fine to omit that if that's objectionable. I
Well,
thought,
why
I
don't
think
you
we
fo-
added that because we thought that it was,
Don,
it
anything?
was.
Permitted, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have to admit it.
I think,
No,
Have
the districts vary.
I think Kristen was answering the question about
He didn't, no.
the wall itself, but fence, I don't know what the fence requirements are. I don't know if it's 6 or 8 in that district.
You might need a variance for an 8-foot height, so all I'm saying is you probably take a look.
Unless it's 6 and it works for you, then it could be 6.
We would be
Yeah.
fine with it being 6 or 4, or it not being there at
Let's
all.
find out what what it could be.
I mean, I don't have the bulk regs for this district in front of me, but I rarely, I can't recall a variance being required for a fence of 8 feet or under, with the exception of, I think there are some districts in which the fencing located in front of the principal structure, there may be restrictions upon it.
Well, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, so, I mean, that'll be a review with staff.
We'll work that,
Something to look
as
at.
part of the conditional review.
I mean, at worst, I've seen sometimes where this fence steps down.
Right.
We're doing the architectural review, so basically they're gonna remove all that, concrete block, side the building in white, roof stays, take out the awning, take out the air conditioner, take down whatever that thing is on the right, and leave the transoms over the window brown, although I'd like to see it something more colorful than brown, but we'll leave that up to you.
Well, the signage is gonna be bright colors. Look,
So it might go with the building.
they have a nice logo, if you've seen that.
Okay, then maybe the building and those things over the windows could go along with the signage. Oh, think about that.
Or not, and it depends.
Work that out with staff, that's
Depends what
fine.
your other tenant will wind up being as well.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't want to put any real restrictions on you, but if, giving you the flexibility to change that color a little bit if you want to.
And
Thank
then
you.
they had the 3-foot tall decorative fence in front of it, black.
Yeah, that's this. Does that work for you guys? Yeah, good, okay. So I like the architecture, what they said. Anybody have any objections to what they said?
No, one other question that I do see.
Hold the mic down, Rocco.
I'm sorry. Oh. One other question, it does show here that you're going to reinstall the stops, the car stops. And
Yes.
I assume that you've looked at them and they will be okay to take out?
Yes, if they're
and to
not, we'll
reinstall?
replace them in kind, but
Okay.
yes, we acknowledge that there needs
I
to be
just
car
wanna make
stops
sure that I
before the
read
building
that
and the
right.
fence.
Okay.
The tables there.
Good. Okay. We have a-
I move we accept architecture as presented.
We moved in second, we approve the architecture as presented and as discussed, and it's taken copious notes, so call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank
So
you.
when do you think you can open? Once we get past all the
Well,
conditions?
we'll work with Kristen and we'll get a building permit and
Maybe this
get
spring?
moving.
That'd be nice. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for coming to Poughkeepsie. Boy, there was an ice cream place up there, man. To go. Yeah, Peter would say that. You wouldn't say that. I said I could have, yeah, okay. All right. The Plan B Brewery. Now we're talking. Site plan and special use permit hearing for a proposed tasting room in the existing barn on the site of a brewery and farm its ingredients. Tasting of the ingredients? 115 Underhill Road, zoned R4A, residence, single family, 4 acre, 24 acres. Unlisted action, PBFB, New York LLC owner.
Good evening, Mark Day, Day Engineering, representing Plan B. Emily and Evan.
Take a seat. Is that all right? I'm Evan Watson, owner, Plan B farmer, brewer.
Master Brow.
No samples tonight?
I would have.
Happy guy. This is good.
I know.
I'm not sure this is working, but I'll talk loud.
Well, you got to get it, turn it on. Sometimes it takes a second to pick up.
Is there another one though?
There it goes.
I got it. The property is a 24-acre parcel. It is actually at the end of Underhill Road, which is actually off of North Grand Avenue. The parcel is, I believe it was a residence for the Underhills at one point. There was an existing house on this property. It was had fallen in disrepair, and Emily and Evan had raised this home. It's no longer there. What is here now is it's an existing barn that was on the property. They purchased it in May of 2015. Since then, they've renovated it, and I apologize, I'm going to pass this around. This is photos taken very recently of what's pretty much completed. I can describe that a little bit. What they've actually done is we've worked with them for a little bit of time. We've gotten septic approval for the existing barn because now it's not only a brewery, but it's also a small tasting room. The tasting room is actually in a small portion of the existing barn. The barn is an L-shaped structure. It's actually in pretty good shape, and they've done quite a bit of work on it. I encourage you to go up and take a look at it. It's pretty unique what they've done to it. The photo that's going around, this is actually the completed plans that were done. Ms. Parks, who's in the audience, is the architect of record. And this is the interior layout. What they've proposed or what they've done here is this area here is the brewery. This area here will be the tasting room. They've actually been through the building department with this. The build out is complete. We're here tonight because of the issue of the tasting room, and
it looks good.
We've met with staff and the fire department representatives on the 10th of this month, and some of the things that have come up were the turning radii. We're actually showing a WB-40 truck being able to maneuver the existing roadway. We are proposing to widen the existing roadway with gravel. We're not proposing any pavement on this site. There is a proposed patio which will be going right in front of it, right in front of the building, which will serve as a handicap and also outdoor seating when they're up and running. Obviously in the summer, not as of recent. Other than that, we've got the comments back from fire. I believe when we met out there, we had to straighten out a few issues. I think he misunderstood the classification of the structure. It's not an A, it's not assembly, does not require sprinkler, it's a B because it's under, the occupancy load is much lower than required by assembly. I think we've got that resolved. He also had asked that we make some improvements to the driveway, which we're showing, and we are also going to be working with him as to how he wants to handle the fire. There is a hydrant at the base of the hill. There is an issue that we did note that has come up about the the frontage that we're showing. We believe that this survey was done in 2003. The town has extended a water main to the end of this roadway. There is a fire hydrant, which we now show, which is right at the end of the driveway for this property. We have checked with a surveyor to clarify whether this road was at some point taken by the town. We know they plow it, so it is roadway by user. This right-of-way, all the way from North Grand Avenue, is only 33 feet wide. I assume that's true because of the fact that there's barns on one of the Underhill properties that to our west that I think is very close to the right-of-way, so I don't think the town would have taken a 50-foot right-of-way. That's pretty much the gist of the project.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Evan. So as Mark indicated, staff did meet on site after their submission. It was their intent to come in and hopefully be a one-and-done meeting, as I had indicated to board members here previously. But after having stepped out on site and been on site to look at water and access to it, there are a couple of further discussions that will need to be had. So staff is recommending that we proceed with opening the public hearing and then adjourning the meeting. And just to clarify, Mark is showing larger format boards right now with some modifications that have been made since January 10th. So the plans that you were reviewing for this meeting are essentially outdated because we have already started the process in moving them forward because we want to keep the process going and do our due diligence at the same time.
Okay.
So sprinklers are no longer an issue in the barn? Is that what I'm hearing?
Based on their clarification
Correct.
with the fire department, but you could probably elaborate more on that.
What happened at the meeting, I believe the fire department, George, if I will, had met with Tim Sickles, who happened to be at the meeting, and they discussed what the classification of the building is. It's not an assembly classification, it's actually business. So that was dictated by the size. Your occupant load on this is very low, so you do not exceed that where you would be an assembly rating. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like he agreed at the time and actually said he was going to retract some of these comments that he had made, but probably wasn't able, so.
Yeah, and being on site allowed a different perspective, and it also will, based on the conversations that were had and sort of what we talked through with the applicant, and they felt comfortable as well, was resubmitting something with a little more of the conversation that was had on January 10th. And then those plans will be circulated and allow fire department, water, sewer, highway to comment again with a little bit clearer point of view.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Tell me a little bit about Plan B brewery. Do you sell? I mean, do you currently distribute your product
Yeah, we
to
have a
local
small.
restaurants?
I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a small distribution arm locally and in Massachusetts, but mainly we have we're farmers and brewers, so we're growing on the property. And all of the ingredients we use are ingredients from the state of New York, and the radius keeps getting smaller to the Hudson Valley. We're one of the first breweries ever to do this in the United States of America. And I cultivate a yeast. Emily, my wife, is our beekeeper, and we cultivate a yeast from the beehive. So every ingredient in this beer is proprietary. We have oak vessels that are coopered out of Hudson Valley oak and that it took a long time and a lot of convincing. It's committed to a local community, and so we have a sort of a CSA. We have a membership, and that's where we distribute most of the beer is through people in the city. We do drop-offs in the city, much like a vegetable farm would do a CSA, because many of the beers are incorporating those ingredients from the farm, and there's a seasonality, a micro-seasonality, as opposed to just your standard pumpkin beer once a year kind of thing. Yeah, it's a family business. My wife and I and our 3-year-old. That's the workforce. and we settled in this property. It was a mess. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that area, but we've invested quite a lot personally and financially into to renovating this barn that was falling apart essentially, and we've even the illustrator the picture that was passed around, the photos. Even the colors are hearkening to the original colors of the Underhill barns. And we're trying to do something that's both. We're trying to make beer from our community ingredients for the community essentially, and we've been functioning as a production brewery, but we're eager to bring folks up to this small tasting room, just so we can sell some pints and encourage the community to be a part of it.
And to drink.
Yeah, that's it.
Where can I find
That's a great story.
your beer in a local?
There is some, there's some at Halftime, the beer grocery store. We do smaller we do large format bottles and small format bottles, but mainly bottles. It's not kegged very often.
No draft then.
I think we just sent out some kegs, and one is at Shotzi's. So if you guys are probably familiar with Shotzi's, so but it goes quick. It's because we produce a small amount of beer. It's of a unique quality, so it's of relatively high demand.
Kind of classified as a nano brewery then.
Yeah, pretty small. Yeah, farm brewery is what I say. Yeah.
Wow.
Now it states
great
you
story.
grow all your ingredients
Yeah,
on site.
we grow most
how many
of the
acres are under cultivation.
We have inherited a wild apple orchard from the old Underhill farm, one that's grown that's probably covering about 5 acres. So we haven't torn that down to cultivate that because we use the wild apples in some of the beers. But we've cultivated the main field, which is about 4.5 acres. Last year we grew heirloom corn varieties, Bloody Butcher maize, which grows 16 feet tall. It's this deep red corn. I have winter rye in right now as either a cover crop or a harvest crop. We have 1,000 hop plants. We have orchards that we planted with apricots, cherries, pears. We have raised beds of lemon verbena and lavender, and we have six large beehives currently that are active, and probably other things that I just can't remember because it's a lot.
Well, your current land, how much can you increase your production?
Well, it's 25 acres, and with, I guess we were going through for tax purposes, going through the process of getting agricultural amendment or exemption, sorry. And I don't know, I'd have to ask my wife exactly what we're saying for the optimal production. It is on a hill, or under a hill.
Yeah, I'm only curious about, as you become successful,
yes, sir.
How much can you grow on that land before you have to import product?
We already work with local farmers. We work with Ben Dobson, who's an amazing organic farmer in Stonehouse Farms, which is he grows organic 6-row barley for us. So our malt's coming from him. We've talked about expanding malt production or grain, the basic fuel of beer, barley, into the fields behind us, which were just purchased by the Kucinich family. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them or know that.
Adjacent to the solar.
Exactly. So we've discussed with the Kuciniches. They're big advocates of our project, and we've discussed with them about leasing some of their land or just taking care of some of their land and putting in some cover crops to reduce weed pressure and such. And they've got a lot of acreage over there now. So.
When do you sleep?
What's that?
You ever get to sleep?
No, not really. It's my life. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I was just going to ask further. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of great ingredients there. Do you plan to sell growlers too, or you just buy the bottle yourself?
Yeah, we do a lot of packaging, and we've worked hard on every bottle is waxed. Topped and then stamped with a B on top of it. We take a lot of care for the packaging. So we want to be able to offer draft on premise for tasting, and then hopefully people, instead of a growler, they would take a bottle home.
That's what I
Because the
figured.
beers are also conditioned naturally. They're bottle conditioned,
Yep.
and that adds to the flavor in the process
Yep.
for the ideal presentation of the
Can't
beer.
do that with a growler. With the,
Yeah, exactly.
As far as the tasting room goes, I didn't hear anything about a bathroom. Is that?
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
already in there, and it's approved septic as well.
Okay, I heard something about septic, but I just want to make sure there's a.
And as I said, it's constructed.
And the last thing I have to say is, there's going to be a lot of workers installing solar panels right next door.
I've heard.
We have some clients to
Yes.
to invite in there.
Yeah, exactly.
But we want to keep the panels straight though, so.
Well,
That's right.
after hours.
How many people do you expect to come up and taste at one time? Are you limited to the number of people you can have inside?
Yeah, we have an occupancy.
The seating is limited. You're probably max, you're probably 12 to 15 people.
Okay, all right, good. Wow, it's great. Another local, that's great. I can't say enough for what you're doing.
Actually,
you.
one thing I failed to mention it, that they have, like I said, we've worked with them for a longer period of time. I was invited on the property to pretty much resurrect the barn. The barn foundation had rolled out like the older barns typically do, and they spent a good deal of time and effort and money to basically redo the foundation on this barn while this thing was sitting here. So what it looked like before they started to work on it, it's considerable. It's a huge improvement, and it's structurally sound. It'll be here for quite a while. So
A lot of steel. Yeah.
It looked like a nice building.
I'm sorry, was this the old pottery barn?
I don't know it as that.
If you're referring to the corporation, definitely
No,
not.
no, no. Not the corporation. There was a pottery barn on Underhill Road back in the
I don't know. They had a lot of diverse employee cultivation, and the Underhills hustled. They were hustling. So we've heard many stories. When we inherited it, it was mainly occupied by squatters and people doing not so sightly things.
That brings us to Ben.
I think it's a good thing, but I'm waiting to see what the revised comments are before I make any other comments. But I think there's beer and ice cream in our future.
We're all getting a little fatter, right? I guess.
Amen.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Peter?
You 1,000 hop plants.
Yes, sir.
About what's the yield? Did you say, what was it last year?
So we haven't trellised them. It's the third year that they'll be planted, and they generally they're a perennial crop. They're a rhizome, and they will grow and yield the most the third year. And I've grown hops for 6-7 years now. So I haven't bothered going through the trellising process because it's quite the process. But generally, one hop plant can yield close to 1 to 3 pounds of flowers. Cones.
Has that been your experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the varietals, I have a close friend that owns hop farms in the Pacific Northwest and provides the rhizomes for us. So they're used to a different climate. And just like anything, that's why I find it important to try to find the, as the French say, but I don't speak French. I would say, they say terroir, but to find what that dirt produces and the flavors that are unique, that's where the great things in this country come from, or from the regionalities.
Yeah, that is. Well, the Northwest is dominant, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Hop production. Can you give me an estimate how many acres you have in hops?
In hops, it's less than an acre. It's probably about a half an acre, quarter acre, half an acre.
The only other, I think what you're doing is great, by the way.
Thank you.
It really is.
Thanks for having us.
My only other question is the same question that the town engineer had, and that is about the road. And I think we need to get an opinion either from the legal department or from the highway superintendent with regard to the road, the road use. According to the state definition, you need 3 rods in width. That road is very narrow. I mean, I don't know if there really has been a determination if you're going to have, if you get busy, and I hope that you do.
Yes,
You know, you're going to have cars going in two directions. You may have heavier vehicles. We want to be certain that if the road is not in that great a shape as it is right now, if there is increased use, what effect is that increased use going to have on the condition of the road? So those are just things that we
Yes,
want to take a look at. So I'd like to get either the legal department or the highway department give us really nailed down it's a road by use, how that's defined, and if this road meets that definition, which and I hope it does.
Okay.
But we just have to know that. Otherwise, I think what you're doing is terrific.
Thank you.
Peter, I can answer part A of that question. Mark Pfeiffer was in the office talking to Kristen about it, and he referred to it as a road by use.
He may have referred to it as a road by use, but I would like to get a clear definition of exactly what that is and be certain that this falls under that category by definition.
Is it paved up to that, to your entrance?
It is. It's paved up and past to the fire
Yeah, a little
hydrant.
bit past, and then that's when it turned to the old farm road.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Mark, do you know the width of the road at the driveway?
The actual right-of-way line is 33 feet.
No, but the width available for a fire truck and another car to go on.
I think you can. I mean, you're going to slightly come off the pavement. I think you're probably about 18 feet wide there. It points, but I mean, it's like anything that you meet in the road. If you come off the shoulder, I think you're not going to go into a ditch or anything. I think you got enough.
We've got to
room
make sure we
pass.
get it all documented and
Something else just to, and I forgive me because it escapes me. Do you have a planned set time frame? Like I know some locations or some breweries, they might only be open Friday through Sunday.
Oh, sure.
4 hours a day. You know, what is your intention?
It's not intended to be a bar, so it's not intended to be open very late. It's mainly functioning as a tasting room. Obviously, the hours, I mean, we haven't set this in stone, but obviously the hours for the weekend would be something like noon to 5 or noon to 7 in the summer. And then perhaps a few hours open on Thursdays and Fridays, I think is what we're proposing at first.
Okay.
To see.
I'm curious, what is your background, your training?
My training?
Yes.
I was I worked at breweries. I worked at the Captain Lawrence Brewery for a while in Westchester County. But my real training, I was a musician that's why I came to New York. I'm from Indiana originally and came to New York as a musician to the city. And I'm from a rural background, and my wife is a farm girl from Ohio as well.
So you have in your family.
Yeah, we gradually have moved up here, and now my dad is just retired from teaching, and they moved to Poughkeepsie as well.
Wow, and that's great. I think it'd be great for a human interest story in the local paper.
They've done a few. They like to use a lot of bee puns, like buzz.
There's.
I guess we better not do that, huh?
No, you can. Go for it.
I'll work them into the resolution when we get there.
No, I'll be done.
Just want to mention also the rail trail's not too far away, so that's some walk-in customers potentially.
Certainly, yeah.
Or riding in customers.
We've enjoyed that, yeah.
I would move that the planning board open the public hearing.
Okay, moved in second and open a public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this application? This would be a good one to talk about. Nice.
I move that the planning board adjourn the public hearing to.
You want to be ready for February? The submission date is when? Monday. Or should we wait, do the March?
Well, we're going to try to get it in Monday, but there's some issues we got to get resolved with fire, so.
I'll tell you what, let's do it February. If necessary, we'll adjourn it in February tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any way we could, I hate to ask, can we close this public hearing since no one's here? All right.
I'd like to keep it open one more
Okay.
pass. I don't think there's going to be anyone here the next one, but I think it would behoove us to keep it open.
Okay, all right.
So I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to February 15th, 2018.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn the public hearing to February 15th, 2018. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I move that the planning board determine that the application is incomplete for seeker review and therefore move to defer action on the special use application and site plan application pending a revised submittal and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, including but not limited to those below, and said responses to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness. Numbers 1 through 6.
Been moved and seconded. Call a question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. The submittal date is Monday, but if it was, Eric says we get a couple of days, give you some grace time too.
How do we broach the question about the road? Is it in the town's court? I'm not sure how we address that.
I think it would be worth it to have that discussion with Mark Pfeiffer, who is our highway superintendent, and I could definitely reach out to Mark to set up a meeting.
Could we do that again with Arlington Fire so we can resolve those issues?
Sure.
I'd like to be part of the meeting that you're doing with Mark too, please.
Sure.
Maybe we could set that up for
Let's bring
Monday?
everybody.
Yeah, we'll have a party. Bring some beer.
Drink some beer.
You can come up to the brewery.
I'll try to coordinate schedules tomorrow, and I'll be in touch.
And if the town engineer could be there, we'd like to get some of those items resolved. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll do everything we can to move you ahead to get, if we can get this
Yes.
done ready for February, that'd be great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
When my kids were little, they always had a blanket, and they always called their blanket their bee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's comforting what we do,
Is there any honey used in the beers?
Yeah, we
at
do
all?
3 or 4 seasonally with our harvest of honey, but like I said, I cultivate a yeast from the raw honey.
mainly the
Yeah,
yeast,
so
that sounds-
essentially, it's in a little bit in every beer.
Sounds
How do you
good.
measure your production? In gallons?
The federal and state government allocate a U.S. barrel, which is 31 gallons. Our production's has been about 200 U.S. barrels. So compared to like Captain Lawrence, which is a regional brewery, they did 25,000 last year. So we're very small.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last quick question.
Sure.
About the level of production of the hops on site.
Yes, sir.
At what point do you plan on expanding your hop production?
Well, our business plan has our production capped at 500 barrels. That's the way it's designed. So we are never expecting to get much bigger. It's a family brewery, so we want it to not employ a lot of people. So the idea is to probably the rhizomes in the ground are the ones, at least for the short term. I mean, I can't, the foreseeable future, they're all that we'll need.
To define here, is capacity barrel equal keg?
A barrel, so a U.S. barrel is referring to kegs that existed before modern kegs. So what a large keg, contemporary keg is 15.5 gallons. So it's half of a U.S. barrel. So that would be 400 kegs, I guess you would say.
Actually,
produced last year.
People talk about keg today. It's still 15.5.
It's 15.5, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then sixtels or logs, as the distributors call them, are a sixth of that, or a sixth of the U.S. barrel, so they're 5.16 gallons.
Okay, so you're anticipating that your total capacity would be 500 kegs. That's your business plan anyway right now.
Yes, sir. It's all packaged into bottles, so for the most part, with some reserved for the proposed tasting room in keg format.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
One additional question, because it involves a special use permit for the tasting room, which
Yes,
is
sir.
separate from the agricultural operation, because that's already existing. If the special use permit you're seeking for operation of the tasting room, is that also going to need to accommodate outdoor events like weddings or parties or other events?
We're not planning for that currently.
So that use would not need to be included in your special use permit?
I don't think so. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so.
Let me ask you this, because,
Because that's not our intention as of now.
Intent, but if they did have an event there, is that something, how do we resolve an issue? I don't think, it's not part of their business plan, but if anybody goes up there, and again, I encourage you, it almost looks like you'd want to do something up there, but I'm just saying that.
But I'm just thinking it's a question that's germane to that meeting that you're going to have, because the fire and Mark Pfeiffer and the highway, they're going to want to know, are we talking about, it's a tasting room most of the time, but are we talking about making a roadway and driveway passable occasionally for 100 or 200 people, or is it or is it always going to be, 15, 20 people and never more than that? Their responses may depend upon the answer to that question. So
Right.
I don't think we need to answer it right now, but
I think it's something we want to think
but
about.
it's something you want to think about for that meeting.
At this point,
And you would-
they're only proposing 20 parking spaces there, I think, so it's not.
Well, there is an overflow.
Yeah, I want to, sorry, I took it down. There's quite a bit of area up there that's, it's basically gravel. It's not been developed. There's a lot of space, even what we don't show, for overflow. I know when Kristen was up there, there was snow on the ground. It's hard to see, but there are areas up there that you're actually can park in. It's not really difficult to park there.
One of the things that the board will be looking at is the intensity of the use. So you have legally two options. You can go for the expanded intensity now, which may require you to upgrade the road, discuss the parking further, so on, or you can limit the intensity now, and then if at some future point you decided that you wanted to do weddings or events or something, you would never be barred from coming in and seeking to modify your special use permit. So that's something you can decide.
That would be ideal.
I think in the back, I think your architect, I don't know her name, in the black sweater.
Libby, Miss Parks.
Did you have you can come up here if you want.
Sure. Here, you want to switch?
Here.
I'm unqualified.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Hi, I'm Libby Parks, Elizabeth Parks, architect. I just wanted to say that I don't think they do want to look for that intensive use at this point. We did talk about it, but it triggers not just the road use and intensity, but we get into that assembly use, and we start to having to put in sprinklers, and it's just too much. It's too much for the property to accommodate, and I think you can hear from Evan's description of their way of life and the way they work. They're not party planners. They're beer makers. So that's what's important to them. And in terms of the hours of operation, again, they don't want people there all the time. They can't be. They want people to enjoy their products, but not.
And they live there.
It's not a bar. Yeah. It's not open to the public in that sense.
Great, thank you. And by the way, you did a wonderful job with the architect. The building looked just.
Oh well, I wish I could take more responsibility for that, but that was the circa 18-something, the original barn builders.
You did a great job restoring it.
We just tried to put it back.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I hear a motion to suspend the rules for comments and any other agenda items?
Motion?
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion to suspend the rules. I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on any other agenda items? This is your chance. Okay. I move we resume the rules.
Second.
And second, to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. McDonald Heights, Town Center, Eastdale Village. Determination of completeness for the final FEIS, final environmental impact statement. For a proposed mixed-use development consisting of up to 390 residential dwelling units and apartments and townhouses, 85,000 to 180,000 square feet of commercial and non-residential space, recreational amenities, and associated parking and utilities. 928, 932, 935, and 936 Dutchess Turnpike and Victory Lane, Zone MHC, McDonald Heights Center, and IH Heavy Industry, District 60.87 acres. Type 1 Action Meadowview Properties LLC, Kirchhoff Properties LLC, and Industrial Retro LLC owners. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello. All right, so the board has received the final environmental impact statement, and I think tonight is for discussion to deem it potentially complete, and then we can circulate it to all the involved and interested agencies.
Okay.
If I may, I'm just going to jump in for
Absolutely.
a brief moment. Just first of all, Valerie and Alana are actually the town's consultants in this case. They are not the applicants, although they happen to be sitting where the applicants usually sit. They are in fact consultants to advise this board. And in this case, they prepared the environmental impact statement and worked with the other town consultants, department staff, as well as with the applicant in order to address all of the questions that were raised by the draft EIS. So the decision for the board tonight is to determine, either the environmental impact statement that has been prepared does effectively address all of those questions, or B, it does not, and if not, then what are the additional issues or questions that need to be addressed? That's.
And once we do that, it goes to the town board?
If the board accepts the FAIS as complete, then a statement of findings would need to be prepared based upon the environmental review. And not until the findings are complete and accepted could any actions be taken by any board. That would be the action that would close out the secret review.
So that's the next step.
That would be the next step.
Yep.
Correct.
And
Do you want to add anything to that, Valerie?
Nope.
The next step after that, Valerie, is it goes to,
So after this, it will go to all the involved and interested agencies.
right? I'm just putting it out there so the board
Sure,
understands.
and then after that, we'll come back to the board, or you will have a finding statement to review
Right.
and consider, and then that would be adopted from there. And then from there, this board would be able to go into the site plan approval process.
And the public hearing process and all that.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. There has been a public hearing on the
On this-
environmental
Yes.
impact
Right.
statement. And in fact, the public hearing was open on the site plan and
That's correct.
subdivision in front of the board. You have an application for that. Those public hearings are in abeyance pending the outcome of seeker.
Right, they were adjourned until when, do you recall?
They were, they were adjourned to February.
Okay,
So if necessary, the board could continue to hear them, but it would not be able to take any action on them until seeker was completed.
Right, so we would probably adjourn them until.
Most likely.
Gotcha.
Continue
Okay.
to
Just trying to put the roadmap for everybody. Okay. Go around, Eric, anything you want to say, or Kristen, or? No? Okay.
Sure, I mean, reading through the FEIS, it looks like you really addressed all the neighbors' comments fairly well. There's concerns of, I think the traffic is always going to be a concern to deal with. But there's some sidewalk issues, historical issues. I remember some of the neighbors were concerned that there's some historical status that's being lost as the farm. So one thing I didn't see mentioned, perhaps some historical photos or artifacts from the Frank Dairy Farm could be displayed in either a community center or maybe in the Kirchhoff headquarters building, something like that.
Sure, and I think that's something that probably could be discussed during site plan approval with the applicant, and I'm sure,
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of a site plan comment as well, but as far as the FEIS goes, I think it looked in good shape to me.
Okay,
Hey,
great.
Rocco. Oh, Rocco's right here. Nicole.
I think we can move forward with this. I didn't see any questions that I had. I still have some questions for the applicant, such as, the wastewater, whether they're going to connect to Lutheran Care or what they were going to do there. So that was a big question for me, but that's not really something you can answer.
Right, and as you know, throughout the environmental review process, we are leaving both options on the table, which will get finalized during the site plan approval process.
Exactly.
They were both in the FEIS,
Right.
so.
Yes.
Thank you. Peter.
We have a project that really is foundationally reliant on essential sewer. You have two alternatives, I think, that would be generally acceptable. However, moving forward, I think, at some point, you're going to have to make a decision, which way to go. The other thing is, there's so many questions with regard to the mitigation of the traffic at the site. that I think have not really been, it can be argued one way or the other whether or not they have been addressed to the fullest extent. But I think for the purposes of the FEIS, whether we agree with the findings or not, at least the questions have been answered. So I don't think there's any reason to stop the process from moving forward. But at some point, the questions that have been raised about mitigation, are going to have to be addressed.
Absolutely. Those are the two big questions right there, the wastewater and the traffic.
Yep.
Yeah. Ben?
I think we should move on it too. Back to the traffic thing again. It's not just traffic, but emergency response vehicles too. You have something figured out for that too, for fire and ambulance and all that too, and to get to all the houses and the nursing home around there and everything?
Yes, we do. Do you want to touch upon the emergency vehicles a little bit?
Sure. When it comes to emergency access directly to the site, there are multiple entrances. The site will access also to Concord Village Drive, off the nursing home area. We'll provide access onto the one side of the roadway. On the other side, beyond just having access from Route 44, there's going to be access to and from Victory Lane. So there are multiple ways for emergency responders to enter the site, which was really what the concern had been. When it comes to navigating throughout the site itself, all of those internal intersections, roadways, access to hydrants and whatnot will get designed to make sure that they provide access for the largest of the fire apparatus.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just said, as far as like the wastewater thing, you may even consider doing both, right? Maybe the west side could be force main, east side could be a.
Well, I don't know if I think that would be up to
But
the applicant.
But both options are in the.
Yes, but both options are in
I'm
there,
sure we're gonna-
any sort of combination.
I think we're going to, in the end here, hear detailed explanations as to what the decisions were made based on certain factors and which way they're going to go, and that's our determination, our job, to approve or disapprove, and that based on all the input from not only the applicant, and the Board of Health, and all the different agencies and people involved in, making sure this is going to work right. So
That's correct.
As I said, two of the biggest hurdles to go are and the traffic.
Well, I move that the planning board adopt the attached resolution accepting the FEIS for the McDonald Heights Town Center as complete and providing for required filing and circulation.
I just want to make note, can we also include in the record that it was pointed out to me today that the tax map designations on the second page of the FEIS are incorrect, and I would like to just replace those with the correct designations.
Accepting the modified FEIS for
the tax map.
For the tax map designations.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it was moved and seconded the planning board adopt the attached resolution accepting the FEIS for the McDonald Heights Town Center as complete and providing for required filing and circulation, and that the tax map designations in the resolution are incorrect and will be corrected before such filing is made.
Yes.
Okay, and call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Should we not have voted?
Did you have a
I was
question?
just going to say it's the tax map designations in the FEIS
FEIS,
as
not
opposed to
on the,
in the resolution.
resolution.
I'm sorry, I meant the
Yes.
FEIS, yes,
But-
I did resolution. In the FEIS. Thank you.
Yeah.
And call the question again. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay,
All right, great, thank you so much.
you're welcome. We've,
There's still McDonald Heights.
Moving ahead.
Still.
Creek Road Apartments. Re-adopt a corrected resolution of conditional site plan approval for 31 apartments in one building of 3 stories in height. 84 to 92 Creek Road, zoned RM Residence Multifamily, District 5.18 acres. Secret negative declaration adopted on June 15, 2017. Site plan approval resolution adopted December 14, 2017. JPJR Holdings LLC owner.
I don't think we're going to have anyone from the applicant appear. This is just a ministerial, well, in essence, because there was an error in the first resolution that was put out that included land bank parking, which was not meant to be part of the, it was a carryover from a prior draft of a resolution for another project.
So
it was never part of this, and it was never part of the board's discussion. So this is correcting that error.
Okay, so it's
Simply
taking out the
that.
land bank parking that shouldn't have been there.
Correct.
In the first place, okay. Everybody okay with that? Okay. So I move the planning board re-adopt the attached corrected resolutions of conditional site plan approval in the matter of Creek Road Apartments dated January 18th, 2018.
Second.
So moved and seconded, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 6-0. We're still back in 2017 here.
Can't imagine why.
Okay. Four Sons Apartments.
Maybe it was a good year. Vintage.
It was okay. Seek a recommendation to the town board and site plan review regarding proposed town board rezoning to RM Residence Multifamily District and planning board site plan approval for construction of 24 apartment units in 2 buildings with corresponding parking and off-site connection to town sewer facilities, Chief Road, Zone BH, Business Highway District, 4 acres, unlisted action, Four Sons Realty Corp. owner. Hello. Good evening.
Okay, yeah.
You are?
I'm Bill Povell, the engineer for Four Sons Realty.
And I'm Patrick Moore, the attorney for Four Sons Realty.
I could have predicted that.
We're back before the board. It's been several months as we've been working on a lot of the comments. The initial submission, the plans were preliminary. It's taken some time, but we hired a geotechnical engineer to analyze the fill that's on the property. As you know, this property is off Sheaf Road, just south of the Route 9 intersection. And there was quite a lot of fill that was placed on this property many years ago. So we did hire a geotechnical engineer, Kevin Patton, who prepared a report. We did submit that with our resubmission package. Whereas ultimately, what he found was the material is suitable to build out the project. However, there is going to be some compaction, mechanical compaction that's going to need to be done, at the time of construction. So that was one of the main comments that we were addressing that took some time. Secondly, we hired an archaeologist to do a Phase 1A, Joe Diamond, which then, after completing his 1A survey, indicated that he should prepare a 1B survey where he'd go out and do shovel tests in the areas that haven't been previously disturbed and filled. Again, that took some time, and the results of that report indicated that there was no prehistoric or historical artifacts that required any further investigation. And then lastly, in addition to just making various engineering changes to the plan, we've been working with the engineering department regarding the sewer. There was some questions regarding the capacity of the Three Partners pump station just north of the Bonefish, and whether or not that capacity would be able to handle this project with the Hyatt Place and Casper Ridge tying in. So we were able to resolve the capacity issues with the engineering department, but again, that took some time. So what you have before you tonight is a more developed plan. We are aware that there's additional engineering details over and above what was submitted, but at this point, we have provided a much more complete plan and addressed a lot of the environmental questions at the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Sure. Yeah, you've clearly done a lot of work on the fill, the engineering, the sewer, the water. There's quite a handful of comments in the packet. I know engineering had some items. Each of the departments had a number of comments, which I think will help move things ahead. They've raised some good questions. There'll be some work to pick things up. I know from planning review, there's some upfront things that are going to have to be resolved sooner or later, and they're down here. Some of the most obvious ones. There's the archaeological. We're not going to make a judgment about the archaeological survey. We usually rely upon the state historic preservation. Has the
Yes,
study
we
been
did
sent to them?
we did submit that report, and we're waiting back from them.
Okay, good. And then various entities commented on some improvements, some changes that need to be made in the EAF, which also might require changes in the plan. So rather than listing them all, I kind of just lump them together, and I'm suggesting that we get together, take a shot at them, and then we sit down with all those departments and kind of go through it, so that when we come forward next time before the board, you can make some more positive headway. I guess I'd suggest to the planning board, if you have any thoughts about, or if there are any questions that you have about the layout of the project with the things that you often have questions about, aside from the more technical issues of water and sewer, about the residential density or connections or the layout. They've given you some elevations. If you have any questions about that, they can think about for next time. It certainly wouldn't be inappropriate to bring them up now.
Okay.
Eric, there seems to be a dispute as to the size of this parcel of land. If it is the lower amount, would that affect the project the way it is currently designed?
That's actually one of the questions that I've posed to them. There appears, just looking at the plans and the response, there appears to be a question about the ownership of a portion of what's shown as the parcel. Obviously, the basis for residential density and setbacks and bulk requirements all depend on the location of that boundary. So I've raised that question for them to answer, and it may need help from our legal counsel on how to interpret the response.
So if I interpret what you're saying, even if it's at 3.13 acres, this project can still fit on there, assuming everything else works?
The 24 units proposed, based on the required residential density, would need 4.0 acres.
Okay, that's right.
It's going to be.
So it wouldn't fit on the lower amount?
Right.
Okay.
But still, regardless, it still needs rezoning approval from the.
Correct.
I didn't hear what you said, John.
I'm sorry, John?
It still needs rezoning approval from the town board.
Okay.
Yes.
Regardless.
And I did speak to the surveyor regarding this, and he's confident in the 4 acres, so that's something we're going to go back with him and document that to the board.
I had a question for you. Do you have handicap spaces currently?
We do.
Okay.
That was a comment.
Yes, the I believe. Point here, but the actual handicap striping was not put on the plan, missing from the printout. But we did leave space for it to see if we have the hatched areas. So it's just
How many do you have in total?
Should be 6.
I believe we have 2.
2?
Yes.
Doesn't seem like.
There's 6 striped areas in front of the doorways that could be used as additional.
Right. Well, typically it's
but not
one
marked that way.
handicap spot for 25 parking spaces.
Right. So you're meeting the code.
How many units we say? 20 units? 24 units?
24.
And
Each one's 2-bedroom?
I'm sorry?
24 2-bedroom units?
Correct.
Are they all 2-bedroom? Is that on the plans? 'Cause that was
I
also
believe
one of
that's
our-
on the plan.
I didn't see, I might have missed it, but I didn't see the bedroom count.
I'll verify that.
Okay.
For our next submission, but
100 people. Don't seem enough parking.
That's why I asked the question.
Okay. My concern, I'm going to ask you, I think it's going to be considerable pushback from the development behind you, Casper Kill Ridge. That's what that's called, off of Sheaf Road.
Yep, the townhouse.
That's it, townhouses.
Yep.
And I would encourage you perhaps to meet with them and maybe lay out your plan and kind of have a community meeting, perhaps with their homeowners association, whatever they might call it there, I don't know.
Yes.
Did someone whisper in your ear, John, or is it you just got a premonition, or what?
Yes.
Yes, both?
I'm just trying to help you.
There
It's
is-
probably better to head off any problem, because we're going to end up having a public hearing of some sort. There's going to be public hearings, right?
Mhm.
And they may show up, I don't know.
Right.
But all I'm saying is better to be proactive in your approach to them and talk about what you want to do and get them, to get their buy-in if you can.
I will point out that the back of this property, which separates this property to that development, is, there's a considerable separation. You have the Casper Creek. So, that, there is a very large natural buffer.
Oh, I'm not denying that, but people get emotional.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just better to talk about it, get it out there, and put it on the table. I don't want you to be surprised.
Thank you.
It's a good location for these apartments. It's
kind of isolated.
It's a nice location. So that's what I got.
I mean, I just checking that the parking meets the code.
Yes.
And what about variances? Nothing needed there?
No variances
Based
for
on-
the parking.
Assuming that the lot sizes works out for the 24 apartments correctly.
Right. Well, the parking as proposed meets all the requirements.
Okay, that sounds good. And the only other comments I have is make sure follow Carol's advice to make sure the stream's protected and everything during construction and afterwards.
There's quite a drop to the back of that property
Yes.
there, if I remember
Right.
correctly.
Yeah, there's a drop on the back of this property, which was a result of the fill, and then once you get beyond the property line, it then drops again.
You don't want
So the
erosion going on there down into it.
Right.
Is there anything further, Carol or Don, town engineer? Either one of you, anything further at this point?
Just with respect to what John said about potential pushback, you have a significant area of now wooded land between the building and the stream that is now just going to be open slope. A landscaping plan would help tremendously on a lot of fronts, both aesthetically to keep neighbors happy, as a screen to stabilize that, and to protect the stream as well. So you should consider some plantings in that area.
Okay.
Also, we haven't heard anything about a DEC Fish and Wildlife query. The EAF just comments that there were no endangered, rare, protected species, but we have no indication that you went through the due diligence in that respect.
I believe
Yeah,
we,
and no doubt, if you look on the just an environmental map or a quick query, you're in an area of, a shaded area, which indicates there is some species in that area, undefined. But without any question, that one of those species would be the Indiana bat. So you're going to have to comply with the tree cutting moratorium.
yeah, and I'll have to double check, but I believe we did do that, and I thought that was attached in the EAF. Because we did get a letter back from them, and I do have it in my package. So-
Okay, the EAF.
And they did indicate that there was Indiana bat
Yeah, that's from the DEC.
from the DEC.
Correspondence dated July 13th, 2017. We have it.
Okay, if you could just forward me copies of that, I have not seen that. And
We
the
got it
last
from-
page of the EAF,
We got it from Carol.
okay. The last page of the EAF that I saw, it typically has the DEC filled in responses, and that would be on there, and that isn't in the packet, the most recent packet. And there's a couple of other just minor comments of inaccuracies perhaps on the FEAF. And the last thing is, if we can pull that north, that would be the western corner, there's the stormwater basin. If we can pull that back a little bit to keep, outside of the 50-foot buffer from the floodplain, it would just be helpful. It's just the back corner. Everything else, we'll have to do some extra erosion control on the discharge point. But if there's any way to pull that back a little bit.
Yeah, well, we tried to keep that as far forward as possible, but given the fill, given the topography of the site, and given the fill that's necessary to build out the project as we have it proposed, that's kind of as far forward towards Sheaf Road as we can make it. If we start to bring the stormwater basin closer to Sheaf Road or towards the front, it's going to make that slope much steeper.
Can you just round off the back corner a bit?
We can look into that.
Okay. I mean, that may be it. Because most of your, that whole stream corridor area, that's where you have a lot of mature screening trees. That's probably your best bet for keeping some of those things intact.
Right.
Bill, I noticed that the GORs, the exception areas, they don't have any grading or development proposed within them. But you said that you thought that the surveyor might be able to verify ownership of those areas, and if that turned out to be the case, then might it change the development footprint and grading to the use of those areas to accomplish things like Harold was suggesting?
Screening?
Well, no, in other words, she was suggesting pulling the grading back, and you were saying there's not enough room. But if you have the use of those areas, would that enable you to do exactly what she's requesting?
Well, there's an encroachment of the parking lot on the adjacent parcel, the old gym, where their parking lot and their pavement goes into that area. So what we didn't propose to tear up any of that blacktop. We kept our grading outside of it, and we're actually graded right to it.
Is that on their property?
And that's what he's saying, it's an encroachment.
Well, then you can dig it up and do what they need to.
That exception.
Your property, so you could dig it up.
Right, it is it does provide access to the back of that building, so, we try not to.
I don't think that's being used at the moment, that building. Is that true, or?
As far as I know, it's vacant.
There's cars in front, there's cars parked there every day. I don't know, maybe somebody's using it as a parking lot? It's odd.
I mean, it was Diamond Gymnastics, but that closed up, so that.
No, the windows are boarded up, but every time you ride by it.
Maybe somebody's using it as a park and drive or something.
I guess that the deed clarification is really the meets and bounds. What is that exception? Is it your property? Is it usable? It makes a big difference with the entire layout of that area. Or could potentially can.
Okay. Don, did you have anything?
I think they're making good progress on most of the engineering issues. The biggest one we have left is the last one in our letter, which basically says it's too steep down to the stream. Not sure how that's going to get solved, but.
And we can discuss that further. Part of the geotech report indicated that the material on site could support a 1.5 on 1 slope, where we're proposing a 3 on 1, and in some areas where it got tight, 2 on 1. But we can discuss that in our meeting when we go through the comments.
Okay. Peter?
Just two items. In the DEC letter from July of 17, there's a concern or an observation about 100-year floodplain and applying for a floodplain development permit from the town. Have you looked into that?
This project is not in the floodplain.
Okay, so it's no longer an issue. So you've already had that discussion and.
Right.
Okay. Reading the geotechnical report, it's a pretty challenging site. But the town engineer tells me that if you follow the recommendations of the engineer who performed the geotech study with the compaction, that it shouldn't present a problem. Is that your intention to adhere pretty much to his recommendations?
Correct.
The other thing is I noticed on the last page, page 22, under notes and limitations, the first sentence says, "Please see the attached pages for additional information." And I didn't get any additional pages.
Which correspondence
Is that the
Peter?
geotech report?
That's the geotech report. On page 22, under notes and limitations, the first sentence says, "Please see the attached pages for additional information." And I didn't get any attachments. So I just want to make sure that the town engineer, if there are additional pages, that he has them in his possession so he can review them. Now, there was on the table of contents, there's some additional items, some attachments. I don't know if it's referring to them. Want me to show it to you?
Sure.
See, here's the comment. See the attachment to additional information. And there are no attachments. And I'm just wondering if they're referring to these.
I believe those are the attachments.
Okay. Does our engineer have those?
I think Andy's
Ask him right now. Could I ask the town engineer a question?
You agree?
Sure. On the last page of the geotechnical report,
It didn't just slide.
number 5, notes and limitations, there's this first sentence reads, "Please see the attached pages for additional information." The copy of the geotech report that I got didn't have any additional pages. Did your copy have one?
I think so. I'd have to go back and check, but
All right, check. If you didn't get them, you can ask the applicant to send you a copy, just to be certain that we have all the information.
These guys want to use it for the end of the building.
Thanks.
That's their property.
Another big issue. There's the property line.
Sorry, we're talking about some other stuff. Ben?
No comment at this time.
Okay. I'm with you on that one. Anybody else?
Is there an early tenant on your site there?
I'm sorry?
Is there an early tenant on your site? Wasn't there a tent there that?
We had that
Oh.
discussion a year ago, I think, right?
Okay, but
That's right.
I don't think there's anybody there.
I did not see it. In the fall, we did do some additional
Because it was there
soil
about a
tests.
year
but-
ago.
They've
yeah.
moved to the Hyatt site.
Well, that may be the one parked in front of the.
Is it a squatter count?
No.
Yeah, it's now on the Hyatt site.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, between the creek and the
Wow.
9.
Did we ever figure out what it was? It's a squatter? Is it a squatter? Somebody living there?
Apparently.
So they're waiting for the hotel to be built and then.
Well, I move that the planning board determine that the application for seeker review and that the planning board defer action on the site plan application pending a revised submittal subject to the following 1 through
12.
Turn the page, 12.
In the comments.
And comments from the board tonight.
If I may amend that, I'd like to add one more comment that you work with our attorney on cleaning up my term, the building to the south, the easements getting back there, and we need to know that it's clean. In other words, what belongs to you, what belongs to them, and who can use what. Because I don't want you guys to get into a situation where they're going to say, well, you're on our property, or, vice versa.
Understood.
Okay, so I think that makes sense. So if you accept that amendment to the.
Yep.
What's,
Yes.
when you said reference, Carl, 1 through 12, what were you speaking about? What document?
Yeah, we did not
Today's comments, I can give
I
you,
don't think I got the planning letter.
No, we don't have that.
you can have this one. It was today's recommendation.
Oh, okay.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, question?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Good. So I think you guys are gonna have a big meeting and can straighten out a lot of this stuff. And again, I encourage you to reach out to the neighbors because in the long run, it always helps.
I think it's Jim Clow, you're talking about the Casper Kill people, yes.
Yeah, I don't know who, I think it's an HOA,
Yeah, there is.
but I don't know who the players are in the.
I know they were upset a few years ago when a neighbor illegally dumped a lot of stuff in his backyard and it came down their hill, took out some trees and.
Oh, really?
Eroding down the hill onto their property, so I think they're concerned
that it?
about
Are we
any
done?
kind
No, no.
of steep slope issues coming up.
We'll get a hold of some of that Plan B beer and bring it to the neighbors.
Hey, listen, donuts helps too.
And ice cream.
And ice cream.
Thank you.
You guys keep doing your job, we'll have plenty of both.
Okay.
I've said before, bear with me, that really Lisa should have her own sign because she looks nothing like Craig Wallace.
Fortunately.
I'll bring mine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
And I'll take that.
Okay, number 4 is I don't know how you say it.
Juvenile.
Juvenile? Lot line revision. Review for proposed lot line revision between two parcels, 144 Manchester Road and 7 Wing Road, zoned R20 residence, single family, 0.74 acres. Unlisted action. Azam Lajawat, owner. Is the applicant, oh, there he is. I didn't see anybody here before.
I'm Jim Sheridan, the surveyor for the Juwanits. So since we had our last meeting in November, we've addressed most of the concerns, and they are added as revisions to the map. We changed the scale of the map to make it a little less cluttered, and added all the notes, the 3 notes that were required. Submitted the deeds to Craig Wallace, and then on the recommendation of here, we, and from Mark Pfeiffer, we also wrote some deeds for the drainage easements, and that's where we stand.
Okay, thank you.
So, just starting off as a refresher, we did go through seeker review last time. The planning board was identified as the only involved agency for seeker review, therefore no circulation for lead agency was required. And the planning board adopted in November a seeker neg deck. Jim, I did have a question for you because you just indicated that you had provided deeds for us, but as I understand it in a discussion with Craig Wallace, we had only received a meets and bounds description. So I
Right.
just want to make sure we're not missing anything.
That's all I do, meets and bounds descriptions, yes.
Okay.
So what are you looking for?
So, and I noticed in your response to comments from November that you identified the attorney for the applicant or the owner will be providing deeds to be filed with Dutchess County?
Right.
Okay. So that is identified, just so the planning board's aware that that is identified as a condition if you were to grant conditional approval tonight. And my only outstanding question, and I would refer to you, Jim, if you could just clarify, there was a lot of discussion about the stormwater drainage easements or lack thereof, or we couldn't find them. If you could just talk us through what is going on with the site and how that is being handled.
Nobody could find any record of it. I spoke to Mark Pfeiffer, he was aware of it, but, and then on the recommendation of Pfeiffer and perhaps from the board, I wrote a meets and bounds description of a 25-foot wide drainage easement, which is what Mark Pfeiffer wanted. And that will have to be conveyed from the landowner to the town at the time that this all happens.
Okay.
The pipes
Lisa,
are there,
do you
they are in use, there's water running through the pipes, they're not abandoned.
Okay,
So,
that was my question.
That was a question from last time, remember? Yeah.
Right, and I have notes from Craig that whoever the attorney is, he can get in touch with either Craig or me, and we will follow up on doing the deeds. He wanted to make sure that the stormwater drainage easement that you just referenced is incorporated into those deeds so that we have it and so that everything's properly recorded. So that would be a condition of the approval if the board grants it.
Is that in one of these, let's see, planning board conditions?
Yeah, I think the language in 2 under application review, it does reference both deeds and such deeds and any stormwater easement shall be approved by the town attorney prior to chairman's signature.
Right, we would also add that the applicant provide any documents needed for filing, such as the TP 584s, et cetera. And we should be able to get that done.
Okay, good. You go around, Peter, anything on this?
Yeah, it seems to me that
We have under application review, we have these conditions: identify lot lines, submit deeds, place the following note on the plan. Shouldn't they be under the conditions of approval? Those items?
You're saying that under application review, item 1 through 3 be incorporated into the recommendations? And
Yes.
Yeah, and actually, that is captured in number 1, Town Planning Department comments dated January 11th, 2018. So that's what those,
Oh, so it
that's
refers to,
referencing.
it's referring to what's above.
Correct.
Ah, okay. I was a little confused in that myself, which is why I was looking under recommendations, all right.
I would be more specific, if you can, items like 1 through 3 of the above. Make it part of the resolution. It just seems like it would be cleaner, and so that there's no question.
It's not ambiguous, all right. So we can make it part of the motion that we move those 3 items under application review down under as part of the recommendations.
Sure.
Even if they're A, 1A or 2B or whatever it may be.
Sure.
We could just do that. That puts it all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that makes sense. Ben?
Nope.
Carl?
Yeah, it's good that you figured out that it's being used and you got the easement in place. Does that limits where a house could be placed potentially, I guess? On that parcel is
Now,
still
it turns out that the
buildable?
the water does not run back out to Wing Road like I had thought.
Okay.
It just runs where I show it on the map. So there is no piping running toward Wing Road from that one catch basin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Carl, as a matter of fact, the building department comments that they have a concern that the plan shows a storm drainage system running through what is shown as the buildable portion of the small lot.
That's what I was concerned about.
Yeah.
But in fact, there's not a pipe in that spot.
That pipe has been removed from the map because there's no pipe out there.
Okay. I'm good then.
Nicole?
All right, I move that the planning board grant conditional lot line revision approval and also grant a 60-day time extension of said approval from March 20th, 2018 forward to May 29th, 2018, subject to the following 1 through 5, 1A being comments 1 to 3 under application review be included.
Perfect. Second. Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Okay, Poughkeepsie Rural Cemetery, new access drive.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you all.
Time extension for an approved site plan regarding proposed new access drive. Signal modification to US Route 9, Sharon Drive, fill area elimination of existing access drive, internal road and fence modifications in a 2.4 acre project, 342 South Avenue zoned R4A resident single family 4 acre, and WD2 Waterfront District 2, 160 acres. Negative deck site plan conditional approval granted or approved on February 16, 2017. Poughkeepsie Rural Cemetery owner. And I move the planning board grant a time extension of conditional site plan approval for 2 90-day periods from February 16th, 2018 forward to August 15th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Stratford Farms, time extension of a final major subdivision approval and site plan approval for 26 individual townhouse lots, common lot area and site improvements on a 6.832 acre parent lot with a previously approved 185 lot subdivision, Stratford Drive, zoned R4A residence, single family 4 acre, 6.832 acres. Negative declaration on file, ABD Stratford LLC owner. And I move the planning board grant 2 90-day extensions of site plan approval and a final major subdivision approval from February 2nd, 2018 forward to August 1st, 2018.
Second.
Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And the last one, Stratford Farms Water Booster Station, time extension for an approved site plan for a 293 square foot single-family water pressure booster station, lot 11, Stratford Drive, zoned R4A resident, single-family 4 acre, 1.89 acres. Negative deck was adopted December 14, 2006. ABD Stratford LLC owner. And the planning department recommends that the planning department grant a 12-month extension, time extension from February 15th, 2018 forward to February 5th of 2019. I call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And that's all we got.
That's all you got.
I move we terminate the meeting.
Second. It's been seconded. We terminate the meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.